Now, I have a little of a love-hate relationship with Christian comics, and I thought it'd be fun to take a bunch of the top ones that people recommend and give my honest review of them. And since I'm a Christian myself, I think I'm more than qualified to give an unbiased opinion of these comics. So I went onto Facebook and went to all the Christian comic groups that they had there and asked what is the top comics on here that you would use to represent your Christian faith. And so I picked up about 4 of the most recommended ones that I saw. And I have some thoughts. So let's get into this. First one we got is Sword of Eden by Nickerson. Now, the Sword of Eden is basically an omnibus. It doesn't really have a interconnecting story with all of them, so I'm going to mainly focus on the first story, which is really just about the Sword of Eden. The rest of them don't really have to do with the sword's just there, so I'm only going to focus on the first one. So basically, the Sword of Eden is about this girl, Rebecca Stern, who apparently was born with superpowers that makes her strong, I guess, and can see spirits. And there's this other superhero in this universe called Nemeshman and his sidekick Kid Cockroach. And they are sent over to Iraq to find the Sword of Eden. And there's this evil angel named Asmodeus who wants the sword as well. And so he, for some reason, takes Rebecca and teleports her to the location, I guess, where the sword is. Okay. So then we follow Nemeshman as they get to Iraq, and then they find the sword's location. So they dig underground, which is also where Rebecca is, coincidentally enough, with a bunch of demons just surrounding them. So they fight them off. They're getting attacked, fighting a bunch of demons, and then they find the sword. I'm guessing out in the open. It looks like it's out in the open. I'm sorry if it's not. But anyways, Rebecca takes the sword, it catches on fire, and she kills all the demons, including Asmodeus. And the day is saved, the sword is protected, and Rebecca gets the option to join Nemeshman's team, so she does. And that's pretty much how it ends. So let's just get out with the positive stuff. I think that the art is pretty good. It reminds me of a Cartoon Network's age of characters, kind of sharp edges and stuff. And when reading it, I wasn't lost at all with the paneling. The paneling seemed to be pretty good. I couldn't find flaws there. It was pretty decent, I think. Alright, so now let's talk about the negatives. I'm sorry. Anyways, we open up with a brick wall and a gate in front of it with an angel named Artemis just sitting there praying. And then the other girl angel's like, "Why are you praying?" And he's like, "It calms me down and stuff." And they talk about Asmodeus and all that. And it doesn't really add much to the story. It's just there to let you know that this is going to be a Christian comic. But here's my gripe with this. It's just so hard to read, okay? When you're reading a comic, you're actually not supposed to have a bunch of text. Comics aren't meant to be for a literature thing. It's more of a visual and literature thing. You're supposed to show more than you're supposed to tell, basically, is how I've understood it. And this book just really does not know how to show it all. It knows how to tell. It tells all of its stuff, but shows nothing. And I know that you're using it to reach the lost, basically. It's their excuse. They would say like, "Oh, well, we're trying to preach the gospel to the lost," which I'm understandable at. It's fine. I don't have an issue with that. It's just the way you do it doesn't work, okay? It's more of like a really big, overly complicated gospel track. That's how I see these things as. And if you want to do that, that's fine. I'm not saying you can't. But if you're thinking that you're going to reach 1,000 lost people, you're kind of not going to. I'm sorry. It's not going to really happen. I've actually have handed out gospel tracks to people, and most of the time they throw it on the ground, and I find like just them littered all over the streets. So the chances of them changing their beliefs by reading this book is very low, and it probably would just be better if you just give them a Bible. Anyways, my main gripe is that there's just way too much words here to read. And that's the thing I have an issue with this book the most, is that a lot of this, you don't even have to read. You can skip a lot of parts. A lot of parts just waste your time. Basically, from what I've understood in storytelling, is that if a scene serves no purpose, then don't put the scene in there, because it's just going to waste your audience's time. And this book sadly fails on that part. Let me give you an example. During the time when we first meet Rebecca, she is talking to this angel and stuff, And she says that she's got to get going or else the rabbi's going to kill her. And so we're like, oh, okay, she's Jewish. All right, I get it. And then soon afterwards, we get a scene with her going to her, I don't know what Jews call it, Jewish church, let's just say. And she's talking to a rabbi. And she's like, hey, rabbi, guess what? I'm a superhero. And then the rabbi's like, oh, okay, but probably shouldn't be a superhero. I mean, what's your parents gonna think? And she's gonna be all like, oh, it doesn't matter about them. They aren't even Orthodox. He's like, yeah, that's true. And then she's like, oh, gotta go, rabbi, see ya. And then jumps out the window. And that's about it. What did that have to do with anything? I mean, seriously, it was just a waste of time. I was like, after I read it, I'm like, what was the point of this scene? We already know she's Jewish. She told us that she had to go see a rabbi. And that's a pretty good explanation that she's Jewish. We didn't need to have this scene. If you're going to have this scene, have the rabbi, I don't know, tell her about the Sword of Eden or something. Anything that can push the plot along. And that's not the only time that there's some unnecessary dialogue. At one point at Nemeshman's headquarters, the boss is talking to him about the Sword of Eden and basically that it is the sword that the angel used to keep Adam and Eve out of the garden, and when Noah's flood came, the sword got lost. But anyways, we see Asmodeus talking to one of his lackeys about, again, the Sword of Eden. And he gives another exposition dump of the exact same one we just heard, but this time without visuals. That didn't need to be in there. It's just filler and it's unnecessary. It just wastes your time. There was just so many times in this book that I just wanted to quit reading because it was such a drag to read because there was so much reading and not enough action. So my final thoughts, Sword of Eden, not a recommend. Unless you have kids and you want to read it to them, then maybe you may like it. I don't know. It's not my thing though. Now, this one actually shows some promise. It basically takes the concept of like how angels apparently live among us. And we don't really know that they are like living among us, and we can like sometimes help them out, and we just don't even know it. So it seems like it's taken that kind of concept, which is pretty good. Now, I've only read the first volume, I guess. Well, issue, we'll call it. And I'm kind of going with manga rules. In manga, it's about the first chapter is what's supposed to get your readers into the rest of the series, basically. The first chapter is supposed to sell the book. And the first chapter of a manga is kind of about the same length as an average comic book, as what I can gather. Maybe a little bit longer sometimes, but sort of around the same length. So let's just get into it. Now this one's art is actually a lot better than the last ones by far. Yeah, it's just nice. That's all I can really say. The art's great. The concept, I'd say, is pretty good. It's very intriguing. It's got like a strong opening with this homeless guy that's wandering around the place who apparently is an angel, which is cool because I like the idea that a homeless guy is an angel. It's just a good way of staying out of people's way but able to observe them at the same time. That's a pretty cool idea. But yeah, other than that, there's not a whole lot to the story that I could really get into because, well, to me, it just didn't make much sense. I mean, after the first introduction of this angel guy, you don't really get much. It seems like it kind of stops there and gives you like a little bit of pinup art, which is cool, but not really important. Could have used those pages for some of the story, but whatever. And I guess the rest is just about these drunk driving kids, I guess, gets in a car wreck and then one of them dies, apparently almost dies, but then comes back to life. Now, I'm guessing, since I haven't read the second issues or any of that, I'm just guessing that this guy that died is gonna be another archangel, I guess. I don't know, really. It's not that clear at all, unless maybe I just read it wrong, but still. So yeah, I think it's pretty good. Would I read more of it? Maybe. Here's the thing, from what I've understood, American comics, at least of all the ones I've read, it usually doesn't really focus on characters all that much, instead of like a concept mainly. Its main backbone of a story is based on the concept. If the concept's interesting enough, then it hopes to pretty much get the reader's attention throughout the whole run. And in manga, it's basically about making good characters, and then it makes the reader want to read more about that character and watch him struggle and stuff. But yeah, Archangels, I'd say it's a solid A. I'll give it that. It's pretty good. It's got a good concept. If you're able to like pick up the rest of the series, and I'd say you pick it up. It might be something that's worth interesting, or it could just be total crap because I haven't read the rest of the series. So as a disclaimer, I actually got this comic for free from the creator, and he wants me to put the link to this comic in the description. So if you want to download it, just go head down the link and go get it yourself. Now, the beginning, the story of King John is interesting, I'd say. Basically, we open up into New York of Manhattan, and you just see this dude sitting on a bench, just relaxing, and then BOOM! Some car just gets hit by a semi. Anyways, this guy then looks over and is like, oh no, there's a car that got hit. Runs over to it, sees this kid just like, little redhead kid just over like, my legs are gone, or they hurt or something. Oh, help me. And then all of a sudden there's this giant demon over there, and I guess he can see a demon, and I guess the demon caused it to attack. I don't know why, but anyways, he wants to go help him, but then the cop's like, no, back away, the fireman's got this. Which, fair point, I'm not sure what he was expecting to do. He's like, no, I can help this kid. It's like, dude, you don't even have the jaws of life. Just get out of the way. You're not helping the situation. And basically, we just see more destruction and him just freaking the heck out, which you would do if you just saw all these creepy monsters. And then he's just staring at a coffee shop, and there's this white-haired dude. It's T-shirt Santa Claus just sitting next to him, and then he's like, hey John, I know your name. And he's like, you know my name is John? And he's like, yeah, don't worry, you're courageous. Now look at the TV. And he's like, war. We're like, what the heck is what war's about to begin? And then he just gets a Bible and gets this knight's armor, I guess. And he's like, oh, a crazy dream. But then all of a sudden, someone wrote on his mirror, it was not a dream. Which would be freaky as heck. I don't know why he did that, but whatever. And yeah, that's about it for the story now. Now, my main issue with this story is that it's very generic, okay? And I really just do not like generic stories. And this is my main issue with 95% of Christian comics I have seen in all these group chats. It is generic superhero concept stuff. I mean, how many times can you tell the same story in different versions? It's just, and that's like, it breaks my heart because I see manga out there and they got like so many different stories. They got a story about a married couple. They got a story about a girl who can't talk right. They got a story about a rooster that freaking fights monsters. I mean, do I need to say more? Anyways, rant over. So yeah, the beginnings, Book of John, I'm going to give it a C. It's not horrible. The art saves it. I'd say if you like this type of art, I'd say it's a win for you. But story, oof. What story is what I'm gonna say. I'm not trying to be mean to the author either. I'm sure he's doing his best, but it's just not an interesting story. I don't know what the story's about except a guy that fights demons. I mean, what's the main antagonist? What's his motivation? What does he like to eat for dinner? I don't know. You don't know anything about this guy. You don't even know his name until the end of the book. Which, of course, is called the Book of John. You kind of would have expected that anyways. But, really, we don't know anything. We don't know anything about this character to even care about his story. And that's what I'm going to say. That's it. Now, this book, I actually really liked. It was probably my favorite out of all of them. And it's called Sithra, the Kingdom of the Air. And it's basically about this little girl named Nirvana Page who lives with her father in a plane. But then when the plane crashes, she gets separated from her father and finds herself all alone in this world with only her cat as her friend until she meets this mysterious white creature named Sithra. And that's about as much as Volume 1 will give me. But in those few pages, I really was enjoying it. And let me get into reasons why I enjoyed it so much. Most comics have like normal panels, little square panels and stuff. This one takes a lot of creative liberties with that. It has like normal panels at some points. Sometimes it's just entire splash pages with text, almost kind of like a hybrid between a children's book and a comic book, and it is ingenious. I was blown away by it, and I was just like, this is so cool. I just couldn't stop reading it, and I cannot wait to read the rest of this story. And also, the other thing that hit me when I was reading this book is that this is the only book that actually has character motivation. Like, all the other books, you don't really know much about their character, if any at all. They're more of a inactive main character, while in Sithra, Nirvana is more of a proactive character. I feel like she'll probably push the plot along instead of the plot pushing her along, like Sword of Eden, Book of Jom, and I can't really say much about Archangels yet. But yeah, all these ones, they just don't have much character development, if none at all. You don't really know anything about the characters. But Sithra, you at least know that Nirvana wants to find her father, and that is all I need to know. But I'll probably make a follow-up video discussing more about what I think Christian comics need to improve on, so I'm not going to get too much into it. But yeah, Sithra, I would definitely recommend reading this book. It's free on Webtoons as well if you can't get the hard copies. I found them on eBay, and if you can find them, definitely pick them up. They are definitely worth a read. Now we come to the end of our story. We had some good ones and some really bad ones, but they're all comics the same, and if you like them, hey, good for you. But the main thing we need to take away from this video is that these are all my opinions. Don't get me wrong, I do like comics, and since I am a Christian, and I've only recently started going to like Christian group chats for comic creators, and it was very disheartening, and I was just sad. It's very much a sad place to go to when you're looking for comic, if you're a comic creator, because no one does any interaction. Everyone's just like, buy my book, and every book is so generic. So I wanted to find what people defined as the best of the best that this community was able to produce, and sadly most of it is crap, but I still have hope that we can actually do better. So that's why I'm making these videos, to encourage you all. Please, don't just do the same thing everyone else does. Be smart and put more time and effort into creating your stories. Study more in character creation and basic storytelling, I guess, sometimes. And just do the best story you can, because that's what we're supposed to do. We're supposed to do things for the glory of God, and I think putting 100% into your work and making it the best thing ever is just super cool, and I hope that I can inspire you to do better in your creations. So yeah, that's it for this video. Like I said, this point of this video was not to like dishearten any creators out there that might be watching this or think that I'm just smacking down Christians because it's super easy. No, I just want them to do a lot better, and sometimes pointing out the negatives is the best way for progression. So yeah, that's it for this video. See ya. We have now reached the end of this journey, and I'm going to say it was fun at some times and very painful at others. And if you want me to like do more of these reviews, that hey, leave a like, subscribe, and leave a comment down below. Tell me which books that you think should actually be on the next video.